So sometimes we are our own filter that says
Mm.
you can't. And I think sometimes we do need to challenge these things in our heads to get more pleasure and more skill in our painting.
What is it that us artists have in common? Well, we're here to find out. This is Red and Yellow Make Ginger. Best way probably to let people know who we are and how we know each other is to talk about our university days, which is quite a while ago now. It was 2009 to
It's 10
2012.
years, or 11 years this year.
Exactly. So, and I'm
Wow.
thinking we haven't really talked about the art side of things. I didn't think, like, how did you get to university? Because you started, I think, when we were in the second year, third year.
Um, I came into your third year, and what had happened, I broke my leg the year before, and so I couldn't drive to Swansea, and basically I just couldn't see me being able to finish my course on time. So I thought, well, cut your losses and just like step back and take the rest of the year off and go back and join the uni again next year and do the stuff you haven't done. So like that was what I did. And thank goodness they let me do it, because like it had taken me long enough to decide, because I didn't originally go to uni because an old partner of mine said that they didn't think that I was good enough, basically. They said you wouldn't be able to do it. And I said, okay, like the good little boy I was in my 20s, instead of thinking, no, I want to do it and I'm going to do it, I just caved in and just carried on painting for my pleasure.
So what was that point that you decided university would be the way to go, having paint? Well, I think we're both into that sort of manic painting. Like, we need it to express ourselves. And
Yeah, well, like at the moment, I'm practically painting a painting every day. It's become unbelievable. But yes, as you say, I've always had that urge everywhere I go. I've always got a notepad and pens, because you never know when it's going to hit you. And if you get an idea and you're out, oh, keep that notebook, guys. Because you won't remember the idea when you get home. You
oh,
need to actually board them time.
yeah, I mean, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes have to do a little stick man, and then the next day I'm painting it. So
Exactly. I've done all of that myself. Like woken up, jumped out of bed, and gone running into the living room to draw. And it's like people think you're in control. I don't think you are. I think when it comes, you have to do it. And basically, how can you put? So I was starting to write books, or get serious about writing books. So I thought, well, I don't want anyone else to do my cover. I want to do it myself. So I thought, well, you need to learn about illustration then. So basically, I went back and I did an initial course at college, just to get my hands in on all the different kinds of course, like ceramics, graphic design, fine art, illustration, photography, which was great because it gave me real confidence then to go in once I had the HND, and it also boosted my confidence to get my books finished and put out there. So it worked in a double way, really. So
yeah, and how have the writing come into it? Because have you always written, and have you always created artwork? Because some people find it later in life. Some people, like, well, I don't think we've already spoken about this, but like myself, from 4 years old, I think, ever since I could hold a paintbrush, I've been painting.
same here. Yeah, that's exactly like me. I used to watch my family. Everyone can draw in my family, and so all the older people, when they were drawing, I'd say, "How do you do that? Show me how to do that." And so they'd show me, and then I'd draw it, and they'd say, "Yours is better than mine." And I'd say, "But I like it. I like drawing. So show me more. Show me more." And once one of my aunties actually sort of accused me of nicking a drawing, and I said, "No," I said, "This is what you were drawing earlier," and I copied it. And she said, "Do it again then." So I did it again, and she was like, "Oh my God." And she said, so she said, "Try and draw this." And she gave me a pile of things to draw, and we had so much fun doing it. But when I got to school, so I guess I started school at 4, so I must have been doing this before school, because when I started at school, like I still had the urge to draw then. I used to like to draw mermaids and witches and mythical characters. And like but I would write them as stories. Did you have a school book where you wrote a diary of what you did while you were off?
No, no.
Oh, in our school, we had to do it every Monday. We'd come in and
Okay, that's part of school.
yeah, do a little notebook, and you'd say just one thing that stood out from your weekend, and maybe do a little sketch under it.
Oh, we
And
may have we may have had to write about our weekend on the Monday, if I remember correctly. So we may have had to
yeah,
write like a short story about what we'd been up to, but I don't think we had to keep it during being off school.
oh no, you just on the Monday you went in. It was kept at school, and
Uh,
you take it out and you put down one or two memories from the weekend
yeah,
that
same.
were just exciting to you. And I remember my first one on my first day. I wrote, "I saw a mermaid, and I had this mermaid leaping out of the water with great big lots of long hair." So I guess that might be the beginning of storytelling.
Yeah, the two going hand in hand with
AKA lying.
characters. Well, you
Yeah,
had drawn the mermaid, so it was partly truth, but with a fancy overlay. And
that's right. Yes. No, I really saw it.
oh, okay.
But no, as I say, yeah, my teachers were so sweet about it. They were like, "Oh, so where did you see her then?" I said, "In Port Call." And they said, "There's lovely," and looked at each other as if to say, "Lying little gits."
Yeah,
but
I mean, mental health. I've seen things that weren't there. So the brain can. You never know. You may have seen it as a child. You may have seen like a little splash of the water, and then your brain just creates the image.
that's it. Well, like you say about seeing things, like I've always been like very psychic. I had used to have a friend that told me all these awful things when I was a child, and it would never tell me anything that was just nice. It would tell me terrible things about my neighbors, and I was only like 5 or 6, and I used to think, "That's rude. Why are you telling me that?" And then I told my mum one day, and my mum said, "What did he tell you?" So I told her what it told me, and it was really naughty gossip about one of our neighbors. And Mum said, "Who told you that?" And I said, "I can't tell you who it is. They're just a voice." And she said, "What?" And I said, "They're just a voice." And she said, "Oh my God, because we've got a Romany heritage on both sides of the family, it meant that, it wasn't considered odd that I had this little voice that told me stuff that came true and things. Thank goodness. Otherwise, I think I would have grown up thinking there was something else wrong with me. But I also would sometimes see spirits, but sometimes I'd see very strange things that weren't human spirits and things. And I thought that was very, very interesting. But of course, I'd draw them. So that.
But this must be some. I don't think I've seen those ones. There must be some amazing artwork that came out of that. And
Yes.
I mean, my studio used to be in an old schoolhouse, and I used to think, don't let your brain do something because you're going to see the Shining Twins or something going to happen. Because it
I
was
know.
creepy at night when all the other artists are left at 7, and I'm a typical artist working from 4 to 9 or whatever. When they
Yeah.
left, I was like, oh, everyone works 9 to 5. Now I'm in a creepy old 18th century schoolhouse, and it was the same when I used to work in support work. That was an old building, and working nights there was terrifying sometimes because apparently there was like old ghost stories of this person with a lantern that I'd been seen, and I was like, please don't let me see him. Please.
Oh, I know. As I say, I remember years ago, oddly enough, a little bit off topic, but my friend Paul and I were walking home, and we got under this bridge, and I said to Paul, "Oh my God!" And he said, "What?" I said, "Just run." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Run now." I said, "There's something serious up there." So we ran, and when we got to the other side of the railway and got down onto the road, I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "What was on that bridge then?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I saw somebody stood on the bridge, actually looking down on us." And I said, "I thought there's something off with that. That's a spirit. That's not a person." So I felt up to them to see if I got any impressions. And it was like I had a picture in my head of putting my hand into worms, hundreds and thousands of worms, and they were all writhing around me, but they were his thoughts. And then I got this really violent, sort of nasty feeling come back, which is why I told Paul to run. Well, Paul told me that I hate that. And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because do you know that about 20 years back, so one of the patients escaped from one of our local mental hospitals and they committed suicide from off that bridge." And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "I bet you that's his spirit," which is which was quite troubling because I walked home that way every night along the abandoned railway line up to my house, you know. But
Well,
I
hopefully, if it was a spirit, hopefully they found peace, because I was just thinking of Van Gogh actually. 'Cause I think wasn't he seeing like people in windows when he was painting? He was seeing like faces or spirits that he and things. I mean, I think there's a correlation between the spiritual world and mental health, and how trying to find that line of what is real and what isn't. And
that's right.
there's a lot of things we don't know in this world. So it's not to say these things could have been, we filter through our senses. So and as artists, we do that as well. So
that's right. What is it? Aldous Huxley reckoned that we have a filter in our brain that filters things out when it's working properly. And he reckoned that hallucinogenics and drugs of that kind used to open that filter and relax it, which was why we would get the hallucinations. But the hallucinations are, a lot of the time, are actually there, but our brain filters it down so that we can concentrate and get on with our normal lives without this constantly shifting reality.
It definitely bypasses something. And I mean, psychedelics is something that I haven't done. There's a recovery video on my art channel because I'm 5 years sober now. But there was one drug that I didn't mean to use, which I didn't know it was in it, and felt always connection to the clouds of different like rainbows coming down. So yeah, there was a few moments where the brain, you start thinking my brain can do that, and that's what fascinated me to start with. But then of course it got quite dark, and I had to find recovery and help because it got quite difficult. But it does, but it does make you realize that the brain is wired up to a certain frequency in a certain way, and if it isn't, it breaks. It's not good. But there's a lot that we the way we see the world is of certain, because you can filter stuff on Photoshop where it's all bright yellows and all that sort of stuff, but it's still the spectrum. But it's
that's right. Interesting thing there, though, I find, I'm sure you have found it, is that if you use bright yellow and print it off, it never comes out as a proper yellow.
And you can never layer with yellow very easily. It always has a slight transparent quality, and you have to layer it up quite a lot. So even the pigment isn't exactly as strong as the others, I find.
No, exactly.
Well, unless it's yellow ochre, of course, because then you get a bit of the brown in there as well. But pure yellow is very difficult to paint with, I find.
Yes, me too. Though, as you know me, I love bright color. Well,
yeah,
a bit of evidence.
And the background.
Yeah, definitely. I actually look like a floating head.
Actually, you got the halo. Actually, if you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, religious mania.
And you just moved, and I just realised that I kept having to do that. I've got Andrew's logo here, which is part of his podcast, and I've got mine there, and I keep covering up his.
As I say, you've got to laugh, eh? But as you can see, do you know mandalas were one of my earliest things that I learned how to do.
Really, that's the most calculated as well. I don't get it.
Well, do you know how I worked out? I've never done the sitting down and marking out a grid. I think if you want everything to be super perfect, wonderful. But I find anything like that makes me feel like I'm killing the creative process.
Yeah,
So
same.
I
So,
start,
yeah, I'm interested.
yeah, I start from the middle with intuition and work slowly out from this. I mean, this is completely like drawn, like, well, I say by hand. It's on an app called Mandala Maker, but all it does basically is saves you having to repeat the same drawing over and over. So that's why I love it so much, you know.
I think you can do the same with Procreate. I haven't worked out how yet, but you can mirror it like 4 times. I'm sure you can go more than that. And yeah, so you can flip it things. So I mean, any tools to speed things up? Because I was going to talk to you about the digital age and how whether you found a difference with that. Having, cause you do a lot of traditional work, you do a lot of watercolors and
Oh
ways
God, yeah.
about that, but then you do a lot of digital as well with the surrealism and dreams and.
Definitely. As I say, and I think that what has actually set me up was I got that is it Dream Wombo Dream
It rings a
the
bell.
app, the AI app.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been using the Wonder app recently.
Basically, I looked at it and I thought, I like this, and I thought, but it's not right. There's too much that isn't perfect. It's kind of too out there. But don't get me wrong, as something that's done purely by an algorithm, oh my God, you know, like most people couldn't aspire to doing that level of art in their lives, you know.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
what
the other thing we'll go on to in a minute is the AI art, because we've both been using it, me more recently, but you've been using it for inspiration a lot. But yeah,
God, yeah,
I digress. But yeah,
yeah, but as I say, but again, you know, I think a lot of the apps are going to open art out to a lot more people because the AI can't create that stuff without an initial idea from the user. And sometimes how the user writes the actual piece of script that will create the image will make a big difference on what the image actually produces or what images actually produce. Because I've put in a simple sentence and gotten something really beautiful and simple, and I put in a complex sentence and gotten something really simple and beautiful. And then I put in something simple and got something so cosmic and wow. You know, you just think, God, but I didn't like it because even though you've put the instruction in, it didn't feel like my work. It didn't satisfy the
yeah,
urge.
yeah, same. I've been feeling better about it when I found that some allow you to put your own photos in there, so you can. So I've been able
Yeah,
to have like a doodle or a sketch or even almost a full painting where it's 90% done, and then just seeing where the composition is, seeing how it is, and then work on it again a bit more. So
yeah,
I think that's better because you feel like you've got more of an input and you almost collaborating with, well, it's not a human, but an AI where you've had some visual input into there.
that's right.
I think my problem with AI art is that it's just words, and that's where I'd much rather have it be policed and have you've got to put an image in there, so it's at least based on someone's creative input, even if it's the classic I can't even draw a stick man sort of thing. At least then it's got some
Yeah,
visual thing to work off.
that's it. Yeah, I do like the AI for inspiration. Like if I'm painting and I want to paint something, I get stuck now, I'll go in and I'll put the sentence in, look at the results that come up, and basically sometimes I don't often use what comes up, but it'll inspire me to think, oh, now this might look good. I like that, but it might look better like this.
Yeah.
So I love the AI, I must admit.
Yeah, I was a bit skeptical when you first mentioned it, but then I've been getting into it more with my YouTube thumbnails because that for me is graphic design, and I can't for the life of me get the things the right size, get it looking very punchy. It looks like it's from a sketchbook scribbled. It doesn't have that kind of powerful impact. Whereas if I put it into AI and then digitally edit it later and use the Procreate to add all the bits I want, it means it ends up being so much more wacky than when I've done it, because I think humans, we tend to try and make sense of things, and we try and put our own input in there. And I've done a video about that, because I think it's actually quite wonderful how it takes you to a place outside that box, and then you can just develop it further.
Well, if you look at some of my paintings from, I would say when I really started to do oil paintings, I started to buy bigger canvases, and some of my paintings could take 8 or 9 weeks to finish. I remember I was very painstaking, and I would take my time and, you know, really, really work on them. And I love detail, as you know, Chris. So there was detail, lots and lots of it. Like I found sometimes I think, oh my God, this is going to take so long. And then about 2-3 years back, I was doing a painting and I thought, do you realize you don't need to be painstaking? You have the same ability, you have the same brush stroke, whether you do it slowly or quickly. You know, it's very measured. Try doing it quickly and see what happens. And you know, I can now paint so much faster, and it's still giving me the same satisfaction. So it goes, so sometimes we are our own filter that says you can't. And I think sometimes we do need to challenge these things in our heads to get more pleasure and more skill in our painting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get bored after a while, so most of my paintings are fairly quick, taking. I mean, the quickest is 45 minutes, but then what that really is the many hours and many weeks of frustration and failure, and then you wake up one morning, you paint and go, oh, it worked.
Yep, exactly. I remember going to someone's house and and I saw a painting on the wall. I said, oh, I love that. And they said, that's one of yours. And I said, what?
Yeah,
I said, I don't think I painted that. I went up and looked and my signature was on it and everything. And I thought, oh my God.
And was that?
And then as I thought it through, I thought to myself, oh, look, that's definitely your stuff. And I thought, oh my God, because I always hide things in my paintings, you know, like little sort of odd things that when you see them will freak you out a little bit, you know, and sort of like, for example, I did a painting that had lots of bubbles rising up into the sky, but inside them there were little transparent embryos, but you only saw them if you looked up close, if you looked up really close to the painting. And sure enough, there was one of my little bubble embryos on the painting, and I thought, oh my God, how can you forget a whole painting? And the longer I sat there, the more I realized that it was mine, and I did remember it. And I thought, oh, you know, our minds are strange things, you know?
There's been a lot I found from the university days and before where I think, that's a lot better than what I can paint now in a way, because I was very much in the moment, very much in depth with it. And that's the other thing I was going to mention, actually, because I was wondering what your thoughts were on the whole social media thing, whether that changes our minds and then perspective, and then causes the painting to be more like churning out like a machine, and we have to get it out because we want to be the consistency, we want to reach our audience, rather than just painting something that we're proud of and then going, I've made this thing, here you go, you know, rather than making it for social media.
I think you're right. I think to get initial success, I think you have to do an awful lot of art, and you have to keep it regular. It has to be something that people go and say, oh, they've done another one. But I think as you go along, you have to be careful not to do too much. You know, like I said to you, I mean, I'm doing paintings every day now, but I do try not to sort of put them out all at once, because it's overkill. And Bowie had a very, very good sort of comment on that. He said, always leave them wanting more. So he said, give them a little and then tease a little more. And then at the end, you give them the final thing, and then they can enjoy that. And then you leave them wait for a long time. I don't agree with that, because I just can't do it. I want to show my stuff.
Yeah, well, it's the same, because I was putting out, as soon as I edited a video, it's gone out like the next day. Whereas now I'm doing a weekly schedule, and it means that I can have 5 weeks planned, and I can just paint and not have to worry about the videos anymore. It's a tricky thing holding on to it and thinking, I want to show people. It's good.
Me too. Me too. As I say, that there's just something lovely about sharing art, and I think that art and writing have the same kind of magic about them. I think it's Clive Barker that said that, like, that writing is the oldest form of magic, because when you write down your story and you give it to somebody else, pictures appear in their heads. I don't. That happens for me anyway.
Most
When
of
I
the
read a
time.
book, it's like a film for me. Like, I go through it with it, and if a book doesn't give me that film, I can't read it. I have to leave it. It must stimulate me visually as well as intellectually.
Yeah,
And
I
sort
think,
of
yeah,
carry on.
I think the thing with writing is that it there's writing where you're just writing, and then there's writing. Yeah, there's a real art to when you see someone write well. It is a magic then, and
Yeah,
it is something where I like to write, but being dyslexic, I mean, you've written the foreword for my book, which will be out in the summer, hopefully. But
that's,
but it takes me
I
such a long
can't wait for
time
that
to write
actually.
even a very simple book where it's just introductions to chapters, and it's 2 years in the making. So the fact that you've done how many books now, like 18?
18. They've all been top 10 as well. That's the amazing thing. Like, we were talking about the other day, and somebody said to me, "How many books have you done?" So I went and looked again, and I looked at it and I said, "Oh my God." And of course, there's a number one in there, which was the autobiography Damien and I wrote for him together, which was
Of course,
loads of fun.
I completely forgot it reached #1 on Amazon and probably other places as well. But
Uh-huh. Top 10 in the States too. Like, but my books seem to sell in the US, the UK, and Germany. And obviously, they sell in Thailand too now and again for some reason.
well, you were there
Oh,
for a while.
yeah, for 3.5 years. And like I say, I love Thailand. Like, and I love Thai people. They're wonderful. But how can you put it? But living there was so different to being on holiday and
Yeah.
really learning about the people and the culture. They took me to some beautiful places. I particularly love Buddhist like temples. I mean, there's one in a place called Naklua that is absolutely almost psychotically detailed. It's got lots of tiny little everything from tiny little figurines right the way up to huge, full human size like statues
Mm.
of these beautiful mythic deities. They're just wonderful. And that one is, oddly enough, I saw it back in 1995, and it's only just been completed now. And a friend of mine went last year and brought back photographs of it. And when I saw it, I said, "Oh, Dan, could you send me copies of these?" I said, "'Cause I just love this temple." And I said, I was wondering what it would look like when it was done. Sort of seeing it just took me to this calm place. It's also built on the most beautiful beach you can imagine, a white sand beach. And the sea is the most beautiful, transparent, sort of misty jade green. And there's well, there used to be, there isn't anymore. I've seen it on video. There used to be a little rickety pier made out of bamboo and old, rather dry and safe looking planks. And at the end, there was a little hut that served breakfast. And I still love to sit in there with my sketch pad, order breakfast, sketch the people when they came in, like the other people that were eating. And if they saw me and they asked, sometimes I'd give them the sketch because it was just, I was doing it for enjoyment, not for an exhibition. But that was the first place I had an exhibition, oddly enough. And that was in a place called Ziggy's in Sriracha. And
The north or south? Because I've been to Bangkok and that's it for Thailand. But
Bangkok's wonderful. Like I say,
yeah, I
I
couldn't personally get into it because I was on my own, and it was like I couldn't walk 100 feet without getting harassed, basically.
there is that. I think sometimes, like for myself, I love Bangkok because it's noisy and people are all over the place. There's lights, those massive coloured lights, art everywhere.
I have to say
People,
the evening was actually the most fun. Whereas people go, "Be careful the evening, be careful the evening," and they never warned me about the daytime. That was worse. I could go out in the evening and listen to jazz. I could have been in Bristol for for all I know, and sing in English. And And then, but the daytime was like, do you want to see the elephants? Do you want to see what elephants? They're like 6 hours away. I want to see. Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of that going on, and a lot of hi friend, come with me. So okay. Then as they go round one corner, I turn around the other and carry on. Hi friend.
Oh,
Yeah,
with
it
me,
was a wonderful place,
sapphires
but
with us.
you couldn't walk anywhere really.
No, no, you always get stopped and said, "Oh, do you want this?"
Yeah, it's a
Like,
strange world. It's Thailand, but I haven't been since 2014, I think it was.
yes, that's it.
And no, yeah, 2014. Yeah, but I love Asia. It's just yeah,
Oh yeah,
it's just a
yeah,
crazy world as well. It's different from completely different culture over there, and but
yeah.
a lot of a lot of the temples I went to when I was in Malaysia and things, and
Oh
um,
God, yeah. Did you go to Penang?
I did, yes, yeah.
You got to
So,
Kettle.
so I saw Penang Hill. Sorry, I didn't hear you then, Paul.
Ketlock Sea, the lovely white tower and the white walls with the round doorways and beautiful paintings, lanterns everywhere.
Don't think so.
That's on the outskirts of Penang. What I did when I got there, good tip if you're in Penang at any time, is at the station when the guy was taking me to my hotel, I basically said to him, "Do you tour or anything? Could you take me around the town?" And they were like, "Yes." And I said, "Well, about how much would that cost?" And they said, "Do you want me all day from the morning until the evening?" And I said, "Oh, actually, that would be good. Like if you could show me places to eat, but I'd want to see the sights." And basically, for 50 quid, you would have come out at about 50 quid.
Okay.
I had him from first thing in the morning right the way up until nighttime. We came out, we went to clubs, we just hung out, and it was so much fun. And as I say, but he took me outside of Penang Central District, which is where my hotel was. In fact, it was the Holiday Inn in Chinatown, and he took me right out to Batu Ferringhi Beach, which is one of the most breathtaking beaches in the world. And I loved that. We saw temples there. Then he took me to Keklock Sea, and I didn't want to leave Keklock Sea. I would have quite happily sat there with a sketchbook and sketched it all day. But as we both know, when it's a very detailed, beautiful place, that could take the whole day.
Yeah,
Like,
when it comes to landscapes, I tend to really simplify it down to its bare roots. So my landscapes are much more simplified because otherwise I just get overwhelmed with all the amazing architecture and detail that's around.
mhm. That's like me. I think because only once I've sat down and literally sketched something like from head to toe. No, twice, oddly enough, both times in France. And the first one was Le Mont Saint Michel, and the second one was Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, of
And I,
course. And it'd be interesting doing another drawing. I assume that was before it. I mean,
oh
it
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
fully burn down, but it's certainly. I think it's changed a lot since I was there.
Mm. It was 2012. That was my
Oh.
treat after graduating.
Mine was 2007. It was the year before college where they said go see smart galleries. I go, oh, I'll go to Paris then.
Oh, that is the place to see them. Yeah. I had something quite funny back in, oh my God, 1990, I think. No, 1989. I went to New York for the first time, and I found this nice little shop, like that had the most amazing art in it, and lovely guy in there, etc. So I bought one of his T-shirts, and it was Keith Haring.
Oh, amazing!
I didn't know who he was, and it was only. Do you know how I found out who he was? Was I got into Grace Jones, and I saw these photographs, and I said that looks like that guy's drawing. So I thought, geez, Paul, check it out. So I looked through, I found some Keith Haring stuff and looked at it, and I thought, oh my God, that's the guy from the shop. And one of my friends, Geraint, who loves Keith Haring, every time he sees his T-shirt, he says, "Did you get that from his shop?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "They were silk screened by him, Paul." He said, "It's like a Keith Haring painting on a T-shirt." And I said, "Well, Yeah, I said, I said, and yes, I said the only reason I wasn't so impressed at first was because I didn't know, I didn't know who he was.
Well, it's one of those things where the style I wasn't too into, but then when you really look at there's a documentary recently, I think, on Keith Haring. It talks about his life and his dedication to the art and what it meant and things. Then you get to understand it more. And of course, it's been copied throughout a lot of art now. I mean, you got Mr. Doodle, which has got millions of subscribers, and thinking it's basically just Keith Haring.
Yeah, basically. As I say, if ideas are good, they get recycled. I mean, so many people, I look at their work and I see Van Gogh in them, or Van Gogh, whatever people are saying these days.
I think American is the Van Gogh, and then I think in the UK
Yeah,
we use Van Gogh more likely. But
yeah,
you can have those two jokes of let it go and Van Gogh with full makeup and gothic.
exactly, yeah. And basically, I remember seeing an interview with a member of his family years ago, and neither America or ourselves have got the right pronunciation. Apparently, it's Van Gogh.
I was about to say actually that my mind went there as well. I
Yeah,
think QI did a thing on that. I think around the
yeah,
right pronunciation, but he was Dutch, wasn't he?
that's yeah.
Yeah, so he's got that kind of tongue click that we don't have.
That's right. Yeah, they say Flemish and the sort of Dutch language are two of the most difficult languages around. Because of the pronunciation and things.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I can believe it. I mean, I'm sure Chinese and Japanese is up there, but I'm sure
mhm.
after that, yeah, there's many really difficult languages out there.
That was an amazing thing with going to Thailand, as we were saying earlier on. When I first arrived in Thailand, I met this lovely lady. She was 72 years old, and she was a restaurant owner at this point in her life. But when we came in, she she sort of really filled up, and she came across me and made such a big fuss of me. And I found out afterwards that she thought that I was the reincarnation of a friend that she worked with, God, 40 years before I met her. And she said, we used to work together. We were masseurs in Bangkok. And as you know, massage is something I've always been interested in. I learned it when I was 16. I learned it again in Thailand when I was 31. And she said to me, she said, you are him. She said, and I'm not talking about just looking at you. She said, your aura, your energy. She said, I've always seen auras. And she said, as soon as you walked through the door, I thought, oh my God, they've brought you back to me,
It's
And
interesting, and I mean, I did massage after university, so I think I think I was a little bit down after university. Going, what do I do now? I went into illustration thinking commercial art, I can get a job. It's like,
yeah,
what do I do? And so I first did personal training, and I didn't get a job in that because going up to people going, "Can I interrupt you? Can I stop your workout?" Yeah, I was not good at that. So
no,
I then,
either,
I
either.
then thought, well, people get injured all the time. So therefore, I went on to sports massage and did that for, I think, 4.5 years. Didn't ever get into full time status, but I was making okay, not a living, but I was making a lot more than I am on the art anyway. But yeah,
That's right.
it
I
was
tried.
good. It was just like it was. You burn out quickly in massage. That's the problem. You can only really do. Most people do 20 hours a week, and
That's it. Yeah,
I think I got up to 8 hours a week at one point. So, and even that felt tough. But trying to get the hours was an art in itself, and marketing with art is difficult. But at least people knew what sports
right.
massage was.
That's right.
They don't really know what
I
we
found
do as artists, do they? Really?
no, I really don't. I think everyone thinks that you just take down the gallery and people say, "Oh, I like that," and buy it and take it home. But there's a terrible thing that people don't really think about when you get to art on a well, even on an amateur level, but certainly on a professional level, the amount of hours work that go into that. And you say to somebody that your painting is like £2,000, and then they're like, £2,000, that's a lot for a painting. You say, it
Hmm.
took me 8 weeks to paint it. And they're
Yeah.
like, they look closely at it, you'll see how detailed everything is, you'll see what they are. And as I say, I remember selling one of my paintings for 800 at an exhibition, And one of my friends said, "How could you sell that for £800?" I said, "Because we're in Cardiff, we're not in London. You know, in London it would go for 2,000." I said, "In New York it'd probably go for more." I said, "But we're in Cardiff. We're in like a very quiet place where art doesn't get the same prices that it would get elsewhere, you know." And I think that places like London and that, you have a very, very well structured art appreciation sort of level.
Yeah.
So people realize if you're going to buy an original, you're going to pay for it, you know. But down here, people are like, "Oh, that's a lot for a piece of canvas and some wood."
Yeah,
And,
bits of plastic blobs on a dead tree. Like
yeah,
it's
exactly.
so much more than that. And
That's
what I struggle with getting out of my head is that I think because I've never really had money in that sense, you know, money to just buy a painting, I'd love to, but
uh,
because I've never had that, I think like yes, it's taking me 2 weeks to create, and I want it to reflect that. But on the flip side, you know, it's difficult to think that other people have that kind of money. But
yeah,
I was talking to someone. I'm doing this cooperative gallery show with a load of other artists for the last 3 months. It's coming to an end as of this recording, so it won't be up anymore. But I was talking to someone about a commission, and I talked about it being 850, and they didn't blink an eyelid. So I thought, I could maybe charge a bit more. But I think start with it also because it's in a part of Bristol that isn't going to be as expensive as say Clifton. Um,
yes.
you do charge less, and
Location.
yeah, and when you're starting out, you think I'm going to charge what I think I'm worth. I'm going to charge a bit more, but I can't possibly ask for double that. You know, I can't. And at the moment, the work that will go into it that kind of reflects it because it's going to be quite a quick gestural drawing, and but there is going to be a lot of initial drawings to start with. I got to go in and take photos of them because it's a portrait and get all that sort of stuff done, and therefore I'm charging a little bit more than I would do anyway because it's going to take a little bit more initial sketchings, and so it's going to just take a little bit longer. But finding a price for your work is difficult, isn't it? It's finding
It is. It is. Like as I say, I think one of my paintings, Huang Kwam Suan Pratanam, which means the Garden of Desire in Thai. Like I painted that, and this was another one that took 6 weeks. And somebody came over, and I said, it's going for about £500, and I expected him to sort of say, "Oh, that's a lot," and he just said, "Great." He said, "I'll have it." I was like, "Oh," you know, because that was the most I'd ever charged for a painting at the time. And there was no hesitation. It was just straight away, "Yeah, okay."
yeah
And so that helped me a little bit to realize that there was value in my work, you know, because
yeah
that is the horrible insecurity of being an artist, isn't it? You're confident enough to show your work and say, "I'm proud of this," you know, "I'm proud of my work." But then when someone asks you about the money for it, you think, "Oh my God," you know,
yeah
money. And
yeah
wouldn't it be nice if somebody gave you that kind of, if art came with that business brain, you know?
I mean, in a
And
way, it'd be nice if they say, "Okay, you graduated to uni now, or whatever. Here's an agent. He'll be with you for a year." Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
here's one each. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah. Oh my God, it would be fun. I remember being at an exhibition once as well, and sometimes I think people can be unhelpful. And I was selling this painting called Alice. Somebody who's supposed to be an older Alice running towards like Wonderland, and basically this woman came in and she was just ranting about it. She said, "I just love this, and it was really nice to have somebody be so enthusiastic." And then my ex, who I used to adore, was very, very sweet, very intellectual, walked up behind it and said, "Oh," he said, "buy it if you like." He said, "I wouldn't." I thought, "What? I can't believe you just said that." And the woman sort of pulled her face, and he said, no, it's not my type of art at all.
And she walked off.
And I said, you can leave now anytime you like.
Yeah, I think I was
But
going to ask, because did you have two partners who had like doubt around your work? Because now you're married to Damien, and I don't know if I can mention his name.
Damien is just so supportive. Like,
yeah.
you know, he's been nagging me to have an exhibition again, and I so want to, but I've just said, let me get a good sort of amount of work behind me, and then I'll actually do it, And I'm getting up there now that I'm at the point where I've got maybe about 25 nice paintings that I think people would buy, and some of them I don't think people would buy, but I'd still like them to be seen and be out there,
Yeah. I mean, so far I haven't sold like loads of originals, but so far I've been quite good at going, well, that one was sale and it sold, and this one was sale and it sold, and it hasn't been till the gallery show where I feel like I'm in momentum again, because I hadn't sold any originals for quite a while, and now I'm like, okay, people are talking about them, people have bought them, and it's to get into that momentum takes time, and I suppose the other thing is, would we be painting if we weren't showing it to people? Because I think it's communication and it's connection with being alive. So therefore, therefore, I feel like if I were to just paint on my own and hoard it, it just wouldn't feel right.
No, exactly. I mean, how can you put? My brother used to say he used to love to watch me paint, because this is so strange now. I like to paint. If I'm painting a canvas, I like to lay on the floor, lean the canvas against the wall, and then paint from down there. And John said he used to watch me, and he said, while you were painting, you'd be just lying there, painting away like mad. And he said, and then at points, he said, you'd go really, really still. And he said, you wouldn't move at all. And he said, sometimes it'd be like 5-10 minutes. You'd just be sitting there and you'd be staring really intently at the canvas. And then your whole body would just go and be off again. And it's funny because you don't think about how you paint, and
no,
unless someone's filmed you.
And there's been times where I'm not doing anything. I'm just watching a film, whatever, and my brain's just going creativity, and then when I get to the canvas, I know what to do. Because sometimes, well, especially now, because my studio has been moved back home since all the energy prices went up and living costs have gone up, and now I can be watching a film and then this painting just going, I'm over here. I'm not finished me yet, and you start thinking about what you can do, and then when you get to the canvas, you know what to do, having stared at it for many days.
Do you know one thing I'm finding lately that in equal measure is that with my iPad, my iPad next to me, like I'll put a film on, my hand will go across to the iPad, and I find that I've picked it up, and I'm into like sketches, which is the package I love, and I'm drawing away, and I think to myself, you've missed about an hour of this film. And I only went in to do just one slight little thing that was an idea that popped up.
I find just starting into the painting, then I go, right, let's just start, see how it goes. 3 hours, 4 hours, longer usually.
That's it.
So I feel like we're sort of coming towards I think we've talked about for about an hour now, coming towards the end of that. We could talk for days.
Definitely.
Days and hours. So
neither of us ever shut up, so it's easy.
So I think a couple of good things to end on. Now that you've got support from Damien, and I wasn't sure if I could say his name because of
Of course you can, yes,
work and things.
Oh, don't worry.
But yeah, now you've got that support. Has that changed the way, not necessarily the way you paint, but the way you see yourself as an artist?
It's just nice. It's nice to have someone else that believes in you, because I'm a very confident person, Chris. Like I like my art. If I don't like it, it doesn't get finished. It gets binned. So or it might just go in a folder in case I can think up an idea for it later on. But I know pretty quickly if something's going to work for me. But as I say, like the good thing with digital is you can keep it anyway, and it doesn't take up any space.
Yeah,
But
the space is an issue.
I've got about probably about 15 canvases in my small bedroom, like
Yeah,
and and they're quite large and they take quite a bit of space. But I've also got some in the cupboard. My brother always says to me, the problem with you is that when you paint, you don't paint for other people. You want to keep them. And he said,
yeah. I
that's what
find if it's on the wall for too long, then I was like, now it's difficult.
exactly. Yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, as I say, it is nice to have support. I mean, my family gave me loads of support. Ever since I was a little boy, they were always, "Oh my God, Paul, that's beautiful," But how can you put it? I did have one thing that was very traumatic, like because my dad had always said that he loved my paintings and stuff. And one evening we had friends around, like family friends. Oh, right. I said, so what makes you say that? And he said, oh, it's all very, and he gave me this pseudo intellectual sort of like I'm really experiencing art sort of nonsense. And his wife then turned around because he said he'd been to university and done a degree. And his wife said, when did you do that? I started laughing. And he said, you've never done a degree in your life. Well, and so like my dad chipped in though, and my dad said, well, actually, he said, if I'm being honest, I don't really like your paintings. He said, they're too weird. They're too out there. And he said, it makes me worry that you might be doing drugs. And I said, oh God. And it really hurt me so badly that someone I cared about so much had lied to me and said they liked my work when they absolutely hated it. I didn't paint anything for 2 years. And
Oh,
when I look back on
wow.
that, I find that so annoying because painting for me is I don't know, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel connected. And
Yeah,
to
I mean, after university, I stopped for 4 years because I was like, I think my last deadline was I had 4 oil paintings on the go, just painting red, 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 and thinking, what am I doing? This is not. I'm just doing it for the deadline, just doing it for the mark. I'm not doing it for the
yeah.
connection. And then I don't know how I live without art now, but it took a little while to dust the rust off and get back into it. But I feel like I've improved a lot since coming back to art and learning through just doing it. Um, so,
Yeah.
the last question I want to ask all my guests is for
Okay, love.
for those states starting out and for those who are maybe be doing it for a little while but getting a bit disillusioned with putting their art out there. What would you say in terms of the self doubt we get as artists and things? The
Hmm.
encouragement of putting work out there.
I'd say don't believe that it's all luck. If you don't believe in yourself, then it will come across, it will transfer to the people you're talking to. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe in your art. I think if you don't believe, you have to be able to convince people that you do. You have to keep that spiel up and everything. But sometimes, like they say, with time, you never think that. Well, you get to a point in your 20s, I think, where you think, right, I'm as good as I'll ever be now. That's not true. Keep learning, try different styles, try different medium, and keep on going. I didn't find something called water soluble uh,
Graphite,
uh, oil pastels
oil pastels.
until I was like 44, and I loved them. And you remember Carl and
Yes, yeah. I mean,
oh,
I think our tutor Carl
Carl.
is living in Bristol actually. I think.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah. As I say, I went to his exhibition in Cardiff, and we had so much fun looking through his work. But Carl said to me that him and Tracy had been looking through our books. This was not with our class now. This was with the class before, and they said, "Do you know how nice it is to see a sketchbook that has got watercolors, oils, like oil pastels? Like the obviously the soluble wax crayons."
Yeah.
Um, they said there was things in here. So we didn't know anything about soluble wax crayons. We didn't know about, oh, I can't think what it was. It was another thing that I'd found.
Mm.
And they said, but it's not just that. They said, your work has got such a variety of styles. And I said, that's because I've come to uni to find out where I am, to find out what I do, you know. But the one thing I was worried about was with uni, I think that it tended to have an effect that as I looked at other people's work, they started to homogenize and look alike. And I thought, you watch that, don't you do that, you know? But I don't know if you noticed that. Obviously,
I didn't notice that, but it is something that outside of uni I see. I mean, there's a lot of university courses I didn't do because I could see that there was a house style going on, even though they said there wasn't. So, and I didn't want people to change my style. I just wanted to get some insight to improve my own style rather than becoming someone else.
That exactly, yeah. And you know, and as I say, I remember doing something that Derek absolutely flipped over. Do you remember it? It was a black and white print with a bright red background, and it was of a it was of a very stern-looking woman.
Oh,
like
yeah,
she was glaring.
That's. I mean, that was for a long time a classic Paul painting. How I remembered you.
That's it. Yeah. As I say, this is what Derek said to me, because when I put it on the desk for him to see, he said, "Oh my God!" And I said, "Feel it."
It's quite big. It's quite big, isn't it? I don't think I've seen the original.
Yeah, that's right. It's A1, the original. So no, A0. I said to Derek, "Put your hands over the actual like clothing." And he put it down. He said, "Oh my God!" He said,
textured, isn't
"Brave."
it?
And he took it. He asked if he could use it for a couple of classes, and you know, and then that when I was doing it, I thought, "Is this being too manic, too crazy?" And I thought, "No, I want to do it. I want to see. I want to see if it works, and if it works, it might be fun to do it on other things, you know."
Yeah, you got to keep experimenting, and I mean, I never thought I'd find myself on a podcast, on video, and so that's another creative outlet beyond the traditional mark making art. But
yes, that's it. But I love your art. Your art has got lovely color. It's got the most beautiful depth. And what I like is that sometimes I look at your art and I sit there and I let it sink in, and it comes out. It comes out as I'm looking at it. And I don't get that with much art, you know? It's
yeah,
like revealing itself as you look at it.
yeah. I mean, I had that experience with Noel Fielding when I saw his exhibition in 2019. I was like, what is that? It's got a lovely texture, amazing, but I can't tell what it is. And so I took a photo and went, "Oh, it's two ghosts wearing high heels." I couldn't see it. Yeah,
that's exactly the same effect that you do, Chris. So you know, like I say, don't get me wrong, not on all your paintings. Some of them I look at it, and it just takes that little while for it to come out. But that's what makes your paintings. Because I think if I saw your paintings anyway, I would say that's Chris Shopland, you know?
yeah. Because I don't feel like I've had a style in terms of I look for the style. I've just painted a lot, and then the style's sort of found me, really.
That's right. That's like my stuff. You know, sometimes I've tried doing like really strong realism the last year and found out that I can do it. But
that's one area which I don't understand how people do it. It's amazing, but
yeah. But when I actually sit down and draw for pleasure and just let it flow through me, rather than trying to be super real, the style that comes out is very naive, and I like it.
Yeah,
you know,
mine too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's certainly evolved and improved, and I can now paint a pretty decent eye and mouth and things. But at the heart of it, it is very much childlike, and I want to keep some of that because otherwise, I don't know. I don't want to get too precise, but I want to get more precise. I want to keep learning and evolving and getting more precise, but I don't want to get so precise that I'm, closed off from the actual expression of it all.
That's it. Well, that portrait I did of you, the one of your head and shoulders.
Yes.
That was done very realistically, which is not normally what I would do. But I thought, you know,
yeah. I mean, it's got this caricature to it still, which is
that's it.
But very realistic.
Don't get me wrong. If you look at it, I don't think there's any doubt that people would know it was you. But it's still not quite a photographic image. It's just realistic enough that it's art with a a strong, recognizable element of the person you're painting, which I love. But
I mean, I'll put all the images on screen of things we talked about. I'll get you send some photos over. So
cool.
So we've been talking for quite an hour, about an hour. So I'll probably wrap up this podcast. We might end up having a part 2 at some point, I'm sure. So at the end of the podcast, just wondering, where can people find you? You got several socials. You got your Mandala group. I don't know if you're advertising that, but yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Let people know where to find you, and I'll put it on screen.
Lovely. Yeah, as I say, the Mandalala now is up to 8.2 thousand, and last week I had 200 new members. But the work that they're sending in is just gorgeous. Well, as you can see, this is my mandala work, but but some of the stuff people are sending, it's just never boring. I just love it. Also, art illustration and design is getting a lot of attention now, and the Artgasm one is starting to pick up too. But I love that the Artgasm one is picking up, because there seem to be less people going onto it, but the standard of work on it is really good. So, and loads of naive stuff too, which is even better,
Yeah, it's going to have some of that naive outsider art as well.
Exactly, yeah. I don't think art would be complete without some art that's simple, maybe even childlike, but has that eye-grabbing. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, I will let you go, because as you know, when we start talking.
Yeah, I'm sure that we'll have a part 2 at some point, and I'm still working out how to end these videos, but I would just say to everyone that stay creative. You have got it within you, and just enjoy the expression of it all. And I'll see you in the next episode. And it's been amazing, Paul. So thank you for saying you'll do this, being on here. And yeah, it's been an amazing chat. And like I say, we could have chatted for many hours more. So
definitely.
Thank you for coming on to do this.
Thanks for having me, love.
Hey, thank you, and bye to everyone watching.